bustling city of over 4 million people today. Aboriginal people were already living in Australia. Those who were living on the southern shores of the harbour were called the Gadigal. They were proud maritime people. They ate fish, mussels and oysters, as well as land animals such as possums, wallabies and bandicoots. England decided to transport convicts to Australia to establish a penal colony that was far enough away to ensure that they would be unlikely to return. The colony would also be useful as a trading post for the South Seas region. Captain Arthur Phillip and the first fleet of 11 ships sailed into Botany Bay, and a day later to Sydney Harbour in January 1788, after 8 months at sea. Captain Phillip chose Sydney Cove as the site for the first European settlement because it had a permanent stream of water, later called the Tag Stream. As Sydney's development grew around the harbour, Sydney became a very busy port. The waterside workers needed to live close to their work, and so the area around the Rocks, Millers Point and Woolloomooloo became home to hundreds of workers who often lived in very crowded, unsanitary conditions. We'll be driving through the Rocks later, and you can hop off at the Sydney Visitor Centre for more information on this historic part of Sydney, and visit the Rocks Discovery Museum. Sydney has been called an accidental city, meaning that it grew in a haphazard way. As the writer Robert Hughes once said, cities are shaped by politics. Wealthy and powerful forces dictated the shape of the city, and despite the efforts of governors like Lachlan Macquarie, there was no strategic town plan adopted for Sydney until 1951. Most of the early buildings were on the western side of the town, with open space on the eastern side. Early Sydney was divided into 3 distinct areas: the government town, which was Bridge Street, the convict town, which was the Rocks, and the military town, which was around Lydiard Square. Wynyard Park to George Street was originally windowsill of the library is Trim, a brave seafaring cat, who, in the company of Captain Matthew Flinders, circumnavigated Australia in the years 1799 to 1804. Next to the State Library is the New South Wales Parliament Building. This was the first parliament in Australia, and this building was originally the northern wing of Governor Macquarie's Rum Hospital, the colony's first hospital building. It was all paid for in rum. At the front of the hospital, you'll notice a statue of a boar, Il Porcellino, a replica of a 1547 statue in Florence by Pietro Battista Tacca. This monument was donated by Marchesa Fiaschi Torreggiani as a memorial to her father and brother. Both had been renowned surgeons at the hospital. On our left is the Mint Building, the first branch of the Royal Mint established outside of England in 1855. It is now the headquarters of the Historic Houses Trust, one of the largest state museums in Australia. Next door is the Hyde Park Barracks, designed by convict architect Francis Greenway to accommodate 15,000 convict men. On our right is Sydney's oldest church, St James Church, and the Supreme Court building. Queen Victoria's statue is appropriately in the middle of Queen's Square, watching over all these historic places and enjoying the attractive views through Hyde Park to the Archibald Fountain and beyond. Governor Macquarie laid the foundation stone in 1821 for the first chapel on this side, which took 30 years to build, but was destroyed by fire in 1865. The 30-metre spires were only added in 2000. Visitors are always welcome, and tours depart Sundays at 12 p.m. Coming up on the left is Cook and Phillip Park, an indoor public swimming complex. This site was originally the farm for Hyde Park Barracks. The Australian Museum, Australia's first museum, is coming up on the next corner. This is the best place to find out about Australia's Aboriginal people, its unique animals, and sparkling gems. A popular exhibit is the life-size skeletons displayed in the famous Skeleton Gallery. The Australian Museum has something to keep everyone amused, especially children. Open daily 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sydney Jewish Museum provides visitors with experiences and understanding of the events of the Holocaust by allowing them to meet in a dignified and moving environment with those who were involved. The museum also deals with Jewish life from the first days of European settlement in Australia. Many of the volunteer guides are Holocaust survivors. There's a kosher cafe, and opening hours are Sunday to Thursday 10 a.m. to 4 p.m, Friday 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There is an admission fee. You'll notice that the area along Darlinghurst Road, where we'll stop, has many pubs, nightclubs, bars, theatre and cabaret venues and strip clubs. It has even been said that King's Cross has the greatest concentration of drinking establishments in Australia. There's a lot of backpacker accommodation throughout the Cross, and there are over 200 restaurants, bars and cafes.
Next one will be Macleay Street stop. El Alamein Fountain, Bourbon Beefsteak or Zuru's Club next.
Shortly, we'll be entering Macleay Street at the El Alamein Fountain in Fitzroy Gardens. The fountain was built in 1961 to commemorate the Australian Army's role during the World War II battles of Tobruk in Libya and El Alamein in Egypt. Macleay Street is named after Alexander. We've been travelling along Mrs Macquarie's Road, named after Governor Macquarie's wife, Elizabeth. Spend some time at our next stop, as there's a lot to see, and it's a great place to take some photos. You might want to see Mrs Macquarie's chair, a seat in the rock on the right-hand side of the point, underneath the Norfolk pine tree. Mrs Macquarie would walk up the hill from the old government house in Bridge Street, cross Macquarie Street, through the Botanic Gardens, around Farm Cove to the Sandstone area, now known as Mrs Macquarie's chair. She'd sit and look out at the heads. You might wonder whether she was homesick for England, as many of the early settlers were. If you look over to protect Sydney Harbour, prior to then, the island was used as a place of punishment and confinement for convicts. National Parks and Wildlife Service run tours to the fort, and there is a pleasant cafe to have lunch. You can also look across the harbour and see the homes of the Prime Minister and the Governor-General. And, if you feel like a stroll, you can walk around Farm Cove, back to the Opera House.